people knew Prabhupada from that neighborhood. And it's maybe the only place in the world where he could get that type of recognition because he had such an impact on New York and people loved Prabhupada. And this is not just a landmark building. It is a holy tirtha. And 1,000 years from now, people will go, here's where it came. Here's where it started. This was the genesis of spreading Sanatana Dharma all over the world right here.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Over at Eco Village in Maharashtra, India. This is a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, Kaustubha, who is not here today. But it's interview day today, and it's episode 1520. And we got a very, very special guest doing very cool things. But before we introduce him, welcome, everybody. Miss Mara, how are you? Show that smiling face of yours, that cherub-like face. There it is.
Thanks.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
It's a good day.
Yeah, great day.
We're gonna miss Tarun. Our little boy's heading back to the U.S. tomorrow.
Yeah,
and so it's a sad day.
but it's his birthday tomorrow.
It's his birthday tomorrow, so we're having a day in Mumbai, going swimming in the pool, and then he's heading back.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a whole different thing without him.
I know.
I feel like he went through some shifts.
Yeah, it was
Dancing in
great.
kirtan. He's got his
Singing
mridanga.
kirtan.
I went to his mridanga class today. He got really good. The Kirtan Academy went really well. I think it's going well.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to next year. Any announcements, Ms. Mara?
Yeah. Tomorrow we are interviewing Garanga, unless it possibly gets shifted to Monday. But
What?
stay tuned on the Sage Community platform for any changes and announcements.
If you don't know Garanga, he is like a pillar here at the Govardhan Eco Village, but he's really just he's practically like a celebrity here.
Yeah,
He's got
such an
multiple books
accomplished-
out, signed on major publishing labels. He's like a self-help guru. He's got millions of followers on Instagram. He's one of those guys that's got like something M. Ever get intimidated by a person with a K after their number? He's got an M after his numbers. Yeah, he's a real powerful person. I could see him being like a prime minister of India.
That'd be great.
You know what I mean? And he's Maharaj's right-hand man here at the Govardhan Eco Village. Built this thing from nothing. Very impressive. So I think Kaustubha's going to try to get him. He's a hard guy to catch.
Yeah.
Kaustubha's trying to get him while you and I head to Mumbai. Anything else you want to mention?
I think that's it.
Big shout out and big thanks to all of our Sage community members who support the show, support the platform. We're trying to as much to post stuff, free content for our members. But we appreciate everyone who knows this is a community supported podcast, and we have one sweet community. Speaking of sweet community, we have one of our Swami's very dear disciples who's taking on a very, very cool project. His name is Anantacharya. He lives in London, comes to New York a lot, and they've got a vision to really do something magnificent with the original Holy Tirtha, 26th 2nd Avenue. Anantacharya, come on down. Haribol. Let's have a big Haribol for Anantacharya. Oh, you got to get over here. Yeah, you got to sit right next to me, sir. You got to put the mic right up to your mouth. We're happy to have you here. Now, Anantacharya, before we start anymore, I just want to share, we really love people in Bhakti who really get into what they do well. I was a musician. I was blessed with being able to do music for Krishna. And I find that unless people are doing what they love, it's hard to continue sort of on a spiritual path. And I also have this theory in Bhakti that whether you get initiated, it's first initiation, a second initiation, really, you've got to find out what your contribution is to the greater good. You really have to dig deep. What is your offering? How can I be of service? Or else I see people float. And they float a little aimless. And let's face it, life is short. We want to really engage with the passion of what we can offer to something greater than ourselves. And I think you're doing that. You happen to be a interior designer by trade.
That's right.
That's beautiful. And, you know, you can use that for your ego. You can use that for your, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of ego in that culture, interior design.
There is for sure.
You know, people say, yeah, of course, interior design, those guys are filled with ego. Guess what? That ego exists everywhere, doesn't it?
Indeed.
You can be anything. You could be like, I clean up at McDonald's. There's an ego in that. Like, I'm the best cleaner. Those guys stink. But Anantacharya, what is your professional background and how did you get into bhakti? Let's start with that.
First of all, thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for being
Thank
here,
you,
my
Raghunath
friend.
Prabhu, and the audience. So my professional qualification is as an interior architect.
Okay.
I studied at university, and over the last 15 to 20 years, I've been involved in various bhakti projects, yoga studios, retreat centers, temples, and now the first restoring the first Hare Krishna temple in the world in 2nd Avenue, New York.
Now, I've got a couple interesting fun facts for you that many people don't know of because I grew up or as a teenager hung out in New York City. And before I was a devotee, I always knew that was the sacred place of the Hare Krishnas. It started in this place. Now, when Prabhupada got it, it was called Matchless Gifts, which was like sort of a weird, funky shop where you can buy, you know, like, I don't know, like a weird, what do they call them? Curio shops or something like that. Weird antiques. And it was called Matchless Gifts. And Prabhupada loved that name so much. He kept the sign on the store. But after many years, you know, the devotees moved to bigger temples to expand as the movement grew. But then when I was there in the early 80s, it was again a type of store that sold interesting pieces of furniture or maybe old porcelain sinks, sort of cool stuff that you would put in your apartment to make your apartment, you know, have some cool architectural integrity or something. And it was called, check out the name of this, Rescued Estates. And I was, and even back then, before I was even a devotee, I thought, what a perfect name. Rescued Estates. That's what this is. It's a rescued estate. And then when in 1993 or 94 or something, they rented, and I happened to be in New York at the time. They decided, hey, that's coming up for lease again. We should get that building. Somehow people chipped in money and they got this building and they needed someone to stay there. And I had just left the brahmacharya ashram, which means, you know, I kind of think about how I'm going to live in the world. And I really didn't, that transition was a little tricky for me. I went from a monk to like being in the world. And I was like, and they said, we need someone to stay here and just give classes. So I lived at 26 2nd Avenue. And it was great, especially because it didn't have a shower. So I had to bathe. Ever see like a bartender bucket, like a bar back would put glasses in that bucket, one of those black buckets? I would stay there, and I was training another brahmachari at the time. And we had to take not even bucket showers because we did bucket showers for a while as brahmacharis. We had to take showers with a cup and pour it over our bodies and stand in that shower or in the bucket. That's how we took our showers. And every morning we would walk to Tompkins Square Park, which was where Prabhupada used to chant. We used to go right under that tree and chant in the morning. That was our morning program. We'd chant back. And I will say this, there's a magic that Prabhupada created in New York City and in that space that people, because I lived there. I was there every day. I gave Bhagavad Gita classes every day. And people would randomly come in and they would say things like, is the Swami still here? I've lived here for like 50 years. Is the Swami still here? Like people knew Prabhupada from that neighborhood. And it's maybe the only place in the world where he could get that type of recognition because he had such an impact on New York and people loved Prabhupada. And this is not just a landmark building. It is a holy tirtha. And 1,000 years from now, people will go, here's where it came. Here's where it started. This was the genesis of spreading Sanatana Dharma all over the world right here. And I'm so inspired by what you guys are doing. Can you share a little bit about the significance of this Matchless Gifts and what you're trying to do and whose vision it was, etc.? Sorry for that very long-winded introduction, but I'm excited.
I'm totally sold. Where do I sign up? Oh, I already signed up. Thank you so much. Um,
You can be lower, but
I can.
lower, but closer.
I'm
Yeah,
still training.
it's okay.
So this project actually was thought about to restore 26 Second Avenue all the way in the 90s,
Mm,
when the devotees first reacquired the building.
sure.
And that was a challenge in itself. And then in 2010, His Holiness Radhanath Swami got a group of his disciples and well wishers from New York, also from the Bhakti Center in New York that we all know and love, and presented a project to start restoring it to its former glory.
Mm.
Now, there was at the time some financial hurdles, some resource hurdles, and now here we are in 2025, and we're well underway to fulfilling that desire.
Question. Former glory.
Mhm.
What does that mean? Because formerly, the place was like, when the devotees moved in there, it was a wreck. I mean, it was like a very poor Lower East Side storefront. Is it like you make it look like it did then to bring it back? Because what they did was in the 90s, and one of our listeners actually did the work,
Oh, really?
Yasho Matyanandana, who lives in Texas now, but he lived there. Yasa restored it. And I bet they didn't have a budget, but he made it look clean and he made it look proper. But it wasn't how it looked when Prabhupada had.
Mm.
Like they put in nice wood floors, they put in nice, but it didn't. And he made it look beautiful. But they tried to. I don't think they had that vision then to like let's keep it exactly like how Prabhupada had it and make sure you feel like you're walking into a time capsule. Is that what you're talking about now? Restoring it?
Yeah, so we're talking about restoring it. And another fun fact is that initially we only had a couple of photographs and a famous video which you can see on YouTube that's called Happiness on Second Avenue.
Hmm.
So the idea is that predominantly we want to restore it as close as possible to how it looked in 1966.
Wow.
And we've done some detective work, so we were able to figure out what the ceiling looked like, what the floor looked like, what the color of the walls were,
Wow.
and
This is really restoring. It's like you're you find some I don't know, like an old car and you're trying to like put it back exactly the way it was. It's almost like an interesting for you, it must be really interesting because you probably, gut things and make them new. Now you're going to make it look like it was old in those days. And you try to get the artwork. Now, is the artwork still there from the
so
60s?
the interesting thing is that nearly all the artwork is original.
Mm.
And there's one particular, or two actually, because they used to like change it up every week. So it never actually stayed the same.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But there was two very nice paintings of Radha and Krishna that were painted by a very famous student of Prabhupada, Jadurani
Oh.
Devi.
Yeah, Shamarani, who they call her now. She's amazing. She told me because I knew her. I still know her. But she told me and you could see next to her old paintings were like almost like primitive, like very primitive, and they're beautiful.
Mm.
But it's almost like this is a new person learning how to paint. But then she also did the famous Lord Nrsingadev painting, which looks like it's like could be in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's like so breathtaking. And I said, "Well, how did you learn how to paint? Did you go to art school?" And she said, "No, Prabhupada, you said just grab my hand." He said, "I'm going to teach you how to paint. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's how you paint." And they call them the windows into Prabhupada called them the windows into the spiritual world. But those first early paintings they're so like nothing's like them. The devotee and as cool and between AI and between that there's so many devotees now that are great artists, nothing beats those original ISKCON paintings. There's something like you could be like a right? You could be like a total
Totally,
collector of all those.
totally.
They were you couldn't put a price tag on those original ISKCON artwork. Oh my God.
You want to hear a fun fact
I
about
love fun facts. I'm
about-
all about fun facts.
about paintings in Prabhupada's time? So Prabhupada, it's unheard of that multiple people would paint one painting. So he'd have the expert at painting faces, the expert at
Oh, right.
painting scenery.
All like many people painting
Yeah.
one painting. Interesting,
And
huh?
one of the reasons you picked up on it earlier about creatives and just ego generally in the world. And one of the reasons why Prabhupada did that is to keep the artists humble and get them to cooperate and work together.
Interesting, right? Interesting. Working together because there could be a lot of ego in art, in music, and because check out what I did, right? Well,
Absolutely.
you don't have that. You don't
Try
have
not
that.
to.
Wow, that's a great story. I'm trying to think how you going to make that. Oh, you know what else? Recently, Yaso, who I just mentioned, he gave me a piece of the floor of the original floor because I think he had to gut that floor. So I got a little piece on my altar at home.
Amazing.
I'll give it to you if you want.
When am I coming over?
Whenever you want. But think of all the great souls that have walked on that floor.
Absolutely.
And by the way, that was a wild time in New York City. That was like, I mean, Jiva's here. Me and Jiva remember what that neighborhood was like when we were young. What to speak of? We were there in the 80s. Like I was hanging out in that neighborhood in 1982, right? And that is Second Avenue. If you're going one block west, that's the Bowery. That's famous for the homeless drunkards on the street banging on your windows. Second Avenue was worse, and First Avenue was worse. And then so it was like, so this is the time when Prabhupada was there. Any person just wandering off the streets could just come in, look for food, look for a place to stay. And they're dealing with this very refined, sophisticated, higher class Saraswat Brahmana, pure devotee Acharya. And it's like you're around, you can't even say a celebrity. Prabhupada is beyond a celebrity. Prabhupada's contribution, we can't even fathom. We're going to have to step away for it for at least 100 years to realize what he has wound up, because he's wound something up that will tick for millennia. And you can see it in Bhakti already. It's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Usually when the master leaves, things just sort of dwindle away, they crumble, fighting over properties. It's not going to be like that. It's already proven like this thing is going to get bigger and bigger. And we're sort of like, even us, it's 2025. It's just around the corner. 1766 is around the corner. Right? This is quite amazing. We're at the beginning of the tsunami. Like when the waves go out to sea, that's where we're right now. It's about to come bigger. And you can just see it just with the kids that are born into this movement already. Second generation, third generation, etc. Sorry, you got me going there, Prabhu.
But on that point, it's got me thinking, how does a guy from London end up in New York and helping to restore the first Hare Krishna temple in the West?
Oh, how did you even get into Bhakti in the first place, sir?
Bhakti?
How do you?
That's a very
We
good
missed
question.
that. How did you get into Bhakti? Here, you're an interior designer, and you see all these Hindus. Were you interested in Indian art?
Actually, it's all down to my elder sister, who's also a Bhakti yogi, and so are my parents.
Oh, I get it.
But it's an interesting story. In short,
You grew up in London?
I grew up in London.
Where
in
are
the
your
south of
parents? Where are your
London.
parents from?
My parents,
Gujarat.
they're from Gujarat.
Boom. It's
You
like
got that
the
one?
land of pure devotees, Gujarat. It's unbelievable.
Raghunath, you're
Everybody, no, I'm not. All Gujaratis live in London. They're all Krishna Bhaktas. The first generation,
or New Jersey,
or New Jersey. They all came over here to make some money. They did pretty damn good. They had kids, and then they realized, and the kids are realizing we got to get into our spiritual lives. And you're from good families. You have a great community, and go on now.
What's interesting, my mother, she first went to Vrindavan when she was 18.
Oh,
She met the devotees a few years later.
wow.
And then in the 90s, my sister, she got more interested in, even though we're from technically a Hindu background,
Right.
she was going to school, she was going to high school,
Yeah.
and she was learning all the world religions. She came back one day. She said to my parents, "When do we get to learn more about quote unquote our culture from India?"
Right.
And thereafter, my parents met the devotees, and somebody said to my father, "So you want your kids to be spiritual and cultured, and uh, but you know the best way to do that?" And he said, "How?" And he said, "By setting the example."
Ooh.
So that's how my parents became bhakti yogis.
Wow. A devotee told them to set the example.
Yeah.
It's really true. You got to raise the bar. So just you and your sister, the kids?
Me and my sister and mom and dad.
Nice family. So you grew up from little child as a
I
devotee?
was 5 years old.
All right. How
I
nice.
won't tell you how old I am now.
At 25?
Yeah, give or take a few years.
And then were you thinking I want to do this for Krishna, or you got some stronger spiritual calling?
um, Generally, if I'm honest, at the beginning, I was practicing spiritual life because of my parents.
Okay.
And at the same time, it came naturally. But when it was time for me, when I finished college and I came out of college, I started reflecting that I want to have a spiritual life of my own. I did feel it. I felt it in my heart.
Yeah, there's like a sentiment, but you have to like for a person growing up with bhakti, our life was different. We went from like, we love Maya. And then all of a sudden we're like, wait a second, we can't do this anymore. We got to change our ways or we might die. Like that was a lot of us, we pivoted like that. Or at least like someone probably like Mara, she's different. Happy Jack, I got a feeling, pretty Sattvic people. Maybe Linda, Linda's like, no, no. Okay. But people like that are like, you know what? This is actually pretty interesting. It's pretty deep. It's it's pretty interesting, cool stuff here. I like this philosophy. I want to try to adopt this philosophy. But that's another thing. But a person who's already growing up to me, you have to come to this epiphany like this is mine. I know it was my parents, but actually Krishna's mine. And I think that might even be harder,
It is actually harder.
you know?
Yeah.
Because for me, I had to really sever ties. I had to sever my connect. When I say ties, if all your friends drink and party, you have to like, I don't do that, and you have to learn just like stand your ground, and it's sometimes hard, and you're also forced to defend it against people who are attached to those things that you're renouncing. I don't drink beer. Well, why don't you drink beer? What's the big deal about drinking beer? And then you have to think about why I don't do this right down to why you're wearing a robe. You know what I mean? You have to really think all these things through. And so when when you're swept into it culturally, sometimes you don't develop, or even just second generation, you don't develop sometimes that type of like um, sort of like a lawyer's type of intelligence to defend your argument, and that's what we had to do. But what was your sort of a spiritual epiphany?
That's really interesting because as a younger person, it's almost like, our spiritual life was at home
Hmm.
and at the temple, and we went to school and we tried to be as a regular
Normal as
kid as
possible.
possible. Although the signs were there because, we were vegetarian and
Right. But yeah, you sort of want people to like you. It's
Mm,
understandable. But I think when it's woven deeply into your family, it's easy to stay connected with the culture,
that's right.
and that's
Absolutely.
the powerful thing about, Indians in general. There's
Mm.
such a ridiculously, like Americans can't even get it. Like, Americans can't understand. It's so horrible, actually. We don't get loyalty to parents. We just don't get it. We are just, by the time we're 13, we're flipping them off. You know what I mean? And talking back on a constant, you know what I mean? And running away from home. Jiva, when did you run away from home? Jiva got kicked out at how old? 14 by her mother. That's just not happening in Gujarat.
I did do some talking back. I do
You did some
admit.
talking back, and you probably got racked in the head too. But maybe not, but maybe.
Some discipline.
There was some discipline in the
There
Gujarati
needed to be.
household. Yeah, see, that's a Gujarati thing. There needed to be. Anyway, all right. So anyway, so where are you going with this now with this project?
Okay, where we're at the moment is we're going about ongoing renovations. So where we're at is we've investigated what we needed to source to make it look as close as it did in to 1966.
Mm.
Things like the floor, things like the ceiling. There was a more ornate dais, or as we say in Sanskrit, Vyasasan, seat of the Guru, Prabhupada's seat. And there was a more elegant, opulent one, but Radhanath Swami said, no, we should match the original.
Oh, right.
So the original dais, then we put in rugs. So we're going step by step and sourcing and installing as much as we can find, either reproduction or original within the space.
So cool. So
It's
cool.
very cool. It's like being a detective.
It's like being a detective. Now, why haven't we ever bought that building?
Mhm.
Right? That seems like there's got to be a wealthy devotee who's going to be like, you know what? We got to buy this. This is crazy. We're going to miss out on an opportunity. Are they selling the building?
So at the moment, the building's not for sale, but
Okay.
we're hopeful that in the future it will be. I think it's more that the building's not for sale, as opposed to the inclination or necessarily the impetus to buying it is not there.
Okay. Now, usually if it's a commercial space, which it is, it's leased, right? You
Mhm.
lease it, but with a lease, it can go up every month. Is that correct?
That's
Or
correct.
not every month,
That's
every
correct.
year. They have a yearly lease or
That's
2
correct.
year. Okay, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because if it's an apartment, I don't think they can do that. They have a longer. You can't just raise the can't just raise the rent money.
They do in England.
Oh, they do in
They
England.
do with
Okay.
my apartment,
Okay.
but
Okay.
maybe not in New York.
Yeah, I don't know. New York has some type of. They're a little bit more friendly to the renters. Some type of rent stabilization, rent control, something like that. But okay. So what's your grand vision?
So the grand vision is twofold. One is to re-establish Matchless Gifts as a place of pilgrimage, and the other is a place of education where people can come and learn about how the Hare Krishna movement started and learn more about Prabhupada and Prabhupada's journey and Prabhupada's vision for the world.
Mm. It's actually a place where people are going there now. It's like people come from all over the world. If there's a Rath Yatra, they'll come to New York Rath Yatra and they'll do a pilgrimage site there. There's 26 Second Avenue. And I just did one the other day. I went to my brother's for Christmas with Mara. And I was like, and we went for a Japa walk, and I was like, oh my God, he lives a block away from Henry Street. This is where the Hare Krishna temple was on Henry Street. Let's go see what it's like. And then we just Google searched what the address was of the old Henry Street temple and also all these other interesting facts about what was happening at that time. And this was like a heavy Italian neighborhood. I don't know what they were thinking. We got to ask some devotee from New York back then. But it must have been crazy when the Hare Krishnas moved on to Henry Street. But we went to the building. It was just right around the corner from my brother's house. And New York is one of these places everybody knows. You'll meet people just know the devotees because they have such a strong presence in New York. And it's and they have a great reputation in New York as well. And yeah, so people are visiting 26 Second Avenue. It's just like they can't get in or there's no regular program. But I love this concept of taking it back to the original, seeing what it was like. And is it going to be like a museum or is it going to be like, are there going to be lectures or is it going to be, what do you mean by educational? What does that mean?
So first of all, we're going to continue all the regular programs that are happening at 26 Second right now. For instance, one of the programs, so Prabhupada, in Prabhupada's time, he would have programs on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays.
Ooh.
And we've actually kept that up. So
Wednesdays and Saturdays.
yeah, so for instance, on one day, there's a international group. Sometimes there's a Russian group that meets there regularly.
Wow.
On Wednesdays, we have meditations, Prabhupada meditations, which we sit and we share remembrances of Prabhupada.
Mm.
And we read from Prabhupada's students' books about their memories.
Mm.
And there's also a program on Saturday on Bhakti Wisdom.
Amazing.
So as well as the programs, we're looking to set up an immersive exhibit. So there's two sides. One is we're looking to the past and creating a place of pilgrimage. and the other is looking to the future.
Mm.
So
Jai
we're looking into
Anantacharya
current-
Prabhu, Jai, Jai.
Hi, this
Jai.
is Yadunath. Is just came on board. Good morning,
Hare
Yadunath.
Krishna.
Yadunath is
Good morning.
inspiration in this project, and he's in New York on the ground. And he's one of my old friends. Hare Krishna Prabhu, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm sorry to join so late. I thought the show started later. Maybe it was
It's
like
okay.
like an East Coast United States time as opposed to India time. I don't know what was going on, but
It's okay. How are you? And how are you guys working together on this project? What's your hand in this?
he is so difficult to work with. It's been problem after problem with this guy.
That's why I was hoping you wouldn't turn up.
Mute.
No, he's been a joy. He gets things done. It's amazing. We have a team of devotees who are really trying to execute this vision. I obviously didn't hear the first half hour of what you guys were talking about, but it's His Holiness Raghunath Swami's vision, and we're just trying to execute it to the best of our ability. You're right, Raghu. You were talking about the rent. Right, the family does not want to give up the building right now. They want to keep it in the family. So we're just honoring that, and just they know we're interested, and we'll keep at it. The rent does increase every year. So we're in the middle of a lease now, and we'll see what happens at the end. So we're working together by just listing what has to be done, what we want to have happen, and then each person is doing what they can to make that a reality. And we're well on our way, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so how have people paid for it? I mean, it's not like you're making that much money from hosting a kirtan on a Wednesday night with a
Right,
bunch of Rush on, the Russian night and then the community night. It's like you're not making whatever the storefront cost of that is. How are you paying for
correct,
this?
correct. Okay, so we do have a pool of monthly recurring donors. These people are from all over the place. The unique thing about one of the unique things about 26 Avenue is that it's a global project. It's not like a local
Right.
temple that's, everybody who is into bhakti yoga has Srila Prabhupada to thank. And Srila Prabhupada started the whole thing at 26 Avenue. Therefore, everybody around the world who is interested in this practice or executing this practice to some degree has a stake in it. So our donors are literally from around the world giving money to sustain this temple. And
this is like the manger, man. Imagine if you're like an opportunity to like have this is the manger.
Yes,
this is
yes.
the manger of the Hare Krishna movement.
And you, Raghunath, and Anantacharya and me, we're the wise men.
Yes.
The three wise men.
I don't know how Kastuba fits into this, but I know that we're the wise men.
Maybe he doesn't.
Maybe he doesn't. He's a camel. Who knows?
Maybe he's the lamb.
Right.
But yeah, imagine if you had the real estate of the manger. I'm sure they have an idea of where the manger was, but it's like that. We're dealing with this type of thing, but we have it all documented. We have photos of it and films of it. And what was that thing you said on YouTube?
It's called Happiness on 2nd Avenue.
People have to watch this. It was shot in film, and it's just like it takes you back to another time in history. It takes you back to a different time before any of us even knew what the Hare Krishna movement was, and you could just see the seeds getting thrown out. What's also great is there's a lot of great footage, perhaps from that in Yadubar Prabhu's movie, Hare Krishna. What is it? The title, the mantra,
the Swami, the man, the myth. I don't know, something.
The mantra, the myth, the movie, and the man who created the Swami who created it all
with zero myth.
Yes, with zero myth. Anyway,
Thank you.
Just destroy the name of that great movie. Okay.
But Hare Krishna, that's the important part. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's and remember back then, immigration had only opened up so that Indians could just start coming around 1965. So to even see an Indian person in New York City was kind of like wow, look at that person, let alone
Sure.
how Prabhupada was dressed at the time. But what you're talking about in terms of watching that movie, Happiness on Second Avenue, and seeing the devotees chanting and dancing and apparently in ecstasy, um, that's what we're recreating. So when you go into Second Avenue, people go to temples and they want to see the deities, right? Or they want to see the devotees that are there or whatever. But when they come to Second Avenue, they want to experience Prabhupada. So you're going to
Right.
walk into Second Avenue and it's going to be like the film Happiness on Second Avenue. And you're going to go, wow, I'm feeling Srila Prabhupada. People feel it now, what to speak of later on.
It's so easy to, it must have been very easy to take for granted, like who you were with at the time. It's just like, oh, it's just a Swami guy. A Swami guy. It's interesting, Swami guy. No, 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 no. You know what I mean? We
That's
can't even,
right.
we can't even fathom. And as crazy as that sounds, as we're talking about it, we can't appreciate how close to we are to these very early disciples of Prabhupada who are just, they're in their late 70s and 80s now and who had so much of that intimate time at the genesis, at the inception of a spiritual phenomenon that is happening. I'm going to try to get this lady on the show, this really nice devotee lady, Mundakini. I don't know her whole. Do you know her?
I know her well.
You know her well.
I know her well.
I mean,
Anantacharya Prabhu knows everybody. He just
you know
knows
everybody.
everybody well.
I mean, she was like, she's here right now.
We'll ask her at dinner.
Yeah, she was. She was set. She sent. This is, by the way, this first generation of Prabhupada disciples in the '60s, and they're unlike anybody you've ever met because they were just like, it's as if they're almost not real people. They were just like, you're my guru. I'll do whatever you say at any cost. That is all. And that's it. They're just programmed in guru nishta or service to guru. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Just like
Yeah.
100% pure devotional service from the moment they lay down eyes on their guru. Not in a fanatical, weird. It is weird in one sense, but not in a fanatical way. It's just in a incredible. I have so much faith in this man and what he's saying, and he's
Yeah.
transformed my life. And yeah, so
And
they're
how-
still walking among us.
Yeah.
They're
And
like
how-
walking
how-
around. I'm seeing them. They're publishing books. Shama Sundar, Malati, yes, we're getting them on the show. This is before there was even there was like 3 temples.
Right. And how is that possible, right? You use the word as if programmed, right? But it wasn't a brainwashing, it was a love washing. Because Prabhupada loved them so much, and his purity, he was completely pure. So that purity has such power, we can't even fathom it. So they can be with Prabhupada for a brief time and feel taken care of. They feel like they could trust him. And that's what he would say. Prabhupada said, like, one thing I can say is I will not cheat you. And they believed it with their hearts, with their minds, with their souls.
And sometimes we see these very majestic ISKCON temples now. They just opened this big one. The Prime Minister of India came to the new one in Navi Mumbai. Mumbai. You were there?
I was there.
Did you see PM Money?
Oh.
No? Okay. But anyway, it's like now these beautiful, majestic pieces of architecture. They're so impressive, but this is like backstage. 26 Ave was like backstage Prabhupada before it became like an army. It was like a tiny little family, and it happened right there. The people were right there. It's quite impressive. And it's not only impressive, nostalgic, but it's something that we have to figure out and wrap our brains. How can we commit to this place so that one day it's in the devotees' hands, and we can always have it as a holy place of pilgrimage before they build a Target shopping center on top of it. Because then we're going to end up going to like paying obeisances in aisle 3 of linens. And
right, mop up on aisle 3, and it's tears of the devotees, joy, tears of joy.
For some reason, a bunch of people bowing down in aisle 3. We cannot figure it out.
What's a dandavat?
You've seen what it's just like in any city. They knock down buildings, many buildings, and then they just put up a Target and a little. Everything's just turning into a mall.
But it's interesting you say that.
Why?
Because around 26 Second Avenue, they were all completely new high-rise buildings almost.
Except that
But
one.
that building and the adjacent building, that whole building is there around all of these new buildings.
This is like magic stuff.
Magic.
Yeah.
It's magic stuff. Like, why didn't that? Because at that point, you could sell it for. At this point, real estate went up so high. This guy probably had it for God knows how many years. Sometimes they're passed down to family members. It's only a matter of time before these things just get bought up, just put into high rise, made into malls. Already, I hung out there in the 80s, the 90s. I can't even recognize that neighborhood anymore.
The gas station's gone.
The gas station's gone. That cool. It used to be an Esso gas station. There's so many great vintage photos of that whole time.
Yeah, I remember when the Esso got bought out by BP, and it was like, oh, that kind of sucks, but at least it's a gas station. And then
At least it's still a gas station.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I would circumambulate the gas pumps. Thank you.
But now you'll be able to get your teeth fixed there.
Oh, it's a dentist?
Yes.
Dentist shop? Okay.
No, it's like there's is there a dentist office in there? Because it's a high-rise luxury
Yeah,
apartment.
there's a dentist
There's a dentist
office
there.
in there.
Wow. Oh
And
my
So-
God, that has radically changed.
Yeah.
And there's a
But yeah, but I mean, talk about Krishna magic, man. It's like this demure. I mean, Prabhupada was what, like 5'6" or something like that. This demure man in physical stature.
Smaller.
apparently my
Well,
I
height
think I'm 5'6". He was
was
5'4", Linda
exactly my
says.
height.
Wow.
Okay, 5'4", right? And
Sorry.
he just starts chanting and he talks to people who are interested in talking. And bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. 22nd Avenue, San Francisco, Montreal, blah 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 blah. Blah. And now
Grateful Dead. Yeah, it's quite magnificent. It was like, and anyone from that time who are still around, Mukunda Maharaj, Malati, Vishaka, and
yeah, Guru Das.
Muridas, and who's with us right now? I can't think of it. Arundhati, who's here right now. It's like, and Prajumna. These guys were here from the inception. You could.
I don't
It's
know
all.
if, go ahead.
I'm
I was
just
going to say, I don't know if meant
10 years from now, which goes by very quick.
Yeah, I don't know if
I'm going to be in my 70s.
I don't know if Ananta Prabhu mentioned this or not, but Vamana Dev is on our renovation team. He's a Prabhupada disciple. He actually lived at 26nd Avenue. I mean, he slept in the storefront, which, you don't do. But
I did. You missed the beginning of the show. I lived there for a year.
He came before you, though.
Yeah, he came before me. I think. I don't know. Maybe
You slept there because he slept there at one point.
Vamana Dev was there in 1968. He slept there.
Oh, okay. He wins. He won that little competition. I was trying to out Krishna him there. Okay, he stayed there. Now, and the interesting thing is, it's not a you're not supposed to sleep there. It's a commercial store. Prabhupada had a little apartment in the back. Have you ever been to that apartment? I would love to. Have you ever been to that apartment?
I've never been inside. There's been somebody living there. We don't have access.
We just throw roses at the door. The person cannot figure it out.
Right. People who live there walk by going like, why is there a person lying down in front of that door?
Rolling around.
Head first.
It's interesting. It would be interesting to knock on that door and just say, can we come in and take photos? I mean, Prabhupada did all the translations there.
Yeah, but that's another thing. We have to be very delicate because it's a person's home and other people live there. So sometimes, they don't want people, making
Are you saying devotees can be obtuse sometimes?
Well, I didn't say it, but
walking around with big drums.
Yeah, I mean the kirtan, the volume of the kirtan, that's sometimes an issue. So we're just trying to keep relationships, cool, so that everybody's satisfied and pacified.
Anyway, they should have some movie. What's your educational? Did I miss that? What were we saying? How is it going to be an educational place? You're going to have some AI thing going on there.
So, as many of you know, physically, it's quite a small space. So we've got a team currently working on an exhibit that will be immersive, that will be educational, and that will really, what we want to do is we want to capture hearts. And we want a lot more New Yorkers and people around the world to learn about Prabhupada and Prabhupada's journey and Prabhupada's vision. And one thing that I wanted to share on the back of what Yadunath was saying earlier is I was reading something that Prabhupada said in an old video, and he said, I was wandering the street and some boys saw me, and gradually they came to me. And then he says, and actually, I did not try anything for developing this institution. The boys did it.
Wow.
It's quite profound.
Yes, it's beautiful, actually. You know, another early devotee of 26 Second Avenue told me, Nayana Baram. He told me, yeah, Prabhupada had us paint this sign that said he says, told us what to paint, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And he said, like, we all laughed at him. Like, you've got one temple. What are you talking about? The International Society. We had no clue. We have no clue of this man's vision and this man's effect, but he did. It's as if Krishna was just saying he just saw the whole thing already. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and they're a measly old storefront in the ghetto. And he had that vision. And then he said to me, yeah, we just couldn't see what he saw.
And they also gave him flack about Krishna consciousness. Nobody's ever heard of Krishna. Maybe we should make it God consciousness.
That's right. That's right. Krishna consciousness, you know, it does have a nice ring to it, Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
Good move again, Prabhupada. Just say, no, we're gonna keep it Krishna if that's okay with you guys. Thanks for the advice.
Right. So we have our monthly donors. We have donors from around the world. And they give like enough for the temple to sustain it. So for this project, people have been donating some things here and there, but we also started this GoFundMe campaign, which I bet you've talked about.
What's the ask? We really didn't do it. We trying to, like, if there's people that want to contribute, how can they contribute? If this is calling your heart and you feel like, you know what, I don't do a lot of service, but I do want to, you know, regular service per se, but I do want to give something back for everything I've gotten from Prabhupada. To make this tirtha recognized by the world. And I really trust that if Raghunath Swami's behind it, and you guys, I trust both of you guys. I've known Yadunath for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like this is going to happen in a very big, beautiful way. Matter of fact, I'm sitting in one of Raghunath Swami's projects right now. You can see this is a big, beautiful hall, but it's got like cow dung clay bricks behind me. You see that? So this was his vision, and I'm sure this is going to be incredible too. What are you trying to raise, and what's the money for? Is there a number you're supposed to reach?
Yeah. Anantacharya, you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you a little bit more about the campaign. So the campaign to restore 26 Second Avenue, as we've said, the birthplace of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The restoration team comprising of Prabhupada disciples, as we've said before, and local devotees, and not so local devotees like myself, has already restored features and aims to raise funds for further efforts, including a lifelike murti of Prabhupada.
Nice.
This project is significant, as Yadunath said earlier, for bhakti practitioners worldwide and seeks their support. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to raise $80,000, which does seem like a lot of money.
Oh, I was going to say nothing. For some people, 8,000.
You're saying that.
Well, it is. 8,000 bucks is nothing. I mean, it's all relative, isn't it?
So Raghunath, what's your pledge?
Well, I got nothing.
Yeah,
I got nothing. I'll give something, but I got nothing. I got nothing.
You're already giving us a lot. So that will go towards the restoration. That will go towards this immersive exhibit that we'll be telling you a lot more about in the coming weeks and months. And also, it will help us maintain 26 Second Avenue.
That's a big one.
Yes.
Because if it's not maintained, people can't respect it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm glad you're doing this. I really have faith in you guys.
Raghunath,
Yes,
that's a takeaway, what you just said there. I got nothing, but I'll give something.
I got nothing, but I'll give something.
That's a takeaway.
No, I love it. Okay, I'll take that away.
Yeah, so we're doing this GoFundMe.
So there's a GoFundMe. There's a GoFundMe campaign. We're going to put it on the board. And if people are just, we'll put it on the link in the bio and the show notes. So it's going to get out there. We super wish you guys really well. I have full faith in what you're doing. And I think this is one of the, a very, very important project because, and you're going to get lots of blessings for this on top of that, by the devotees that are alive and for Prabhupada himself and the whole parampara. There's magic happening in the world right now. And you can, it's tangible, it's palpable. And I'm so happy to have you guys in my life too.
Thank you, Raghu. Thanks for giving us time on the show. And we want to glorify Second Avenue. We also want to show people Prabhupada because nobody knows about him, and he's one of the most extraordinary people in history.
Extraordinary. Yadunath, you got to come visit us upstate, Super Soul sometime. You got to get out of the city, come visit us in the farm side. You're one of those city boys.
And you're all invited to 26 Second Avenue, New York.
Yeah, let's do a program at 26 Second Avenue.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
I would love that to happen. Is it under construction now, or is it like happening? Can you go there now?
No, you can be there. You can be there.
All right, I'm going to do something this year. What do you say, Mara? Mara's a Prabhupada girl. As a matter of fact, we should make those t-shirts. Prabhupada girl. You know what I mean? Daughters of Prabhupada. It could be a bike gang. Daughters of Prabhupada. Jiva's the head of the... Jiva, Catherine. I could see Linda on a Harley. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening to the show. And thanks for Anantacharya and Yadunath Prabhu. Really excited for what's going on. And thanks for everybody joining us on Zoom. Even though we're keeping crazy hours, you're showing up. It means a lot to us. Check out the website to see if Kostuba is going to be on tomorrow. It will be tomorrow. It will be tomorrow. What's that? 6 a.m. Eastern time. Excited for that. And what's the next day? Linda? We have a show Monday? Special co-host that day. Not me. I'm not there Monday. So you may want to just sign on, tell your friends I won't be there for those. It's okay. There are people that just don't like me, and I'm okay with that. I don't hate myself for that. I get it. I annoy certain people. Thank you. There's certain people that do like me. There's certain people that like me more than Kostuba. And that's okay.
They love you.
There's certain people that love me. And there's certain people who want to lynch me or kill me. And that's okay too. Because we're all different. But I'm not here for 2 days. So if you're on the anti-Raghu team, these next couple of days are for you. And then I'm back. Thanks, everybody. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Raghunath Swami's giving the evening sangha today. Let the magic continue to flow. Howdy-bo!